Pediatrics
Natu sir, just
Pune
1 minute.
branch. Yeah.
आपला हा कुठे आहे प्रेझेंटर?
भीमसिंग लॉग ऑफ झाला का? आहे इज देअर. पियुष झालं का?
Yes, you can start.
Yeah. So very to all of you. I welcome all of you on behalf of Indian Academy of Pediatrics Pune branch for this 9th edition of the postgraduate clinical presentation. We have had 8 cases and a journal club till now. So this is the 9th one. And for today we have faculty which includes Dr. Deepa Firke ma'am from Kolhapur, Dr. Deepali Ambike from ma'am from YCM Pune, Dr. Sampada Tambrokar from DY Patil Medical College Pune, Pimpri Pune, and Dr. Santosh Joshi from Dinanath Mangeshkar Hospital. And the presenter today is going to be Dr. Bhim Singh Misa from Srimati Kashibai Nole Medical College. So I think we will not waste much time and start the presentation. So I request Bhim Singh to please share his screen. Bhim Singh, check your mic and start.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, you can start.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Bhim Singh, if there is one more device working, it needs to be switched off because we are getting an echo.
No, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. For my case, informant is grandmother, which is a reliable source. 22-month-old male patient, second by birth order, third degree consanguineous marriage, Hindu by religion, Nandiwali by caste, resident of Hadapsar, brought by parents with complaints of fever for 4 days and difficulty in breathing and excessive cry for 1 day.
So can I interrupt in between?
Yeah, anytime.
So Bhim Singh, can you analyze this case depending only on chief complaints?
The patient has fever for acute duration, that is 4 days, with difficulty in breathing and excessive cry for 1 day. The fever, that means he has some acute infection focus that indicates the underlying inflammation or infection, that is fever, with excessive cry and breathing is associated with respiratory or maybe associated with the CNS infection. Fever with excessive cry and irritability is associated with CNS infection, and breathing difficulty with fever is maybe associated with respiratory tract infection like pneumonia or anything underlying condition that may.
So depending upon the chief complaint, what is the localization of disease process?
Maybe according to chief complaint, I felt maybe the respiratory system may get involved. Fever with difficulty breathing and excessive cry, followed by maybe the CNS acute meningitis, maybe there could be there because of the.
Okay, we don't want cause, we just want the localization of disease to any particular. Okay, continue.
Patient was apparently all right 4 days back. When he developed fever is mild to moderate grade, intermittent in nature, not associated with chills, rigors, or rash, relieved temporarily by medication, and patient was playful in the febrile period. Also, grandmother was complaining sudden onset of an episode of excessive cry for about 10 to 15 minutes, followed by difficulty in breathing, which is resolved 10 to 10 minutes after calming the child. There was no similar episode in the past.
Bhim Singh, can you elaborate this complaint further?
Grandmother.
That means there was history of sudden onset of crying, and for 10 to 15 minutes there was episodes of difficulty in breathing, followed by a lull. That means after that, after pacifying, the child was fine. So can you just elaborate or analyze this complaint? Because you've already given us a differential diagnosis of 2 things. That means either a respiratory or a CNS. That's what you've told us. So taking it a step further, can you analyze this further?
Ma'am, this complaint is typically related maybe the breath holding spell, or second thing maybe the cyanotic spell, TED spell like complaint.
But when you said difficulty in breathing, you meant an apneic period, or you meant an excessive hyperventilation? What do you mean by difficulty in breathing here? Because when you're saying there is a breath holding spell, there is a period of apnea, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what do you mean over here by saying difficulty in breathing?
Ma'am, according to the as alleged history of this complaint, the grandmother told that there is a increase the rate and depth of the breathing.
So when do you get an increase in the rate and depth of the breathing? You said a CNS complaint. Would it increase the rate and depth of the breathing?
No, ma'am. In CNS complaint, there is no as a such complaint.
So, and in a respiratory case, if you
Maybe,
have a
ma'am.
child,
Yes, ma'am. This complaint may be associated with the respiratory.
But this
something
is
very
sudden onset.
sorry.
So this is a sudden onset complaint. So do you
Yes,
still
ma'am.
think that it is a respiratory origin or something else?
Ma'am, is a sudden onset may be associated with maybe in the foreign body aspiration. There is but there should be the bouts of cough while during the feeding anything. But that such similar complaints are not there. That's why I think.
Bhim Singh, you have not elaborated on the frequency of the episode, or was it an isolated one episode?
Sir, I have elaborated. One episode, there is no similar episode in the past.
So there was only one episode in the whole 2.5 years.
Yes, sir.
And you have an acute history where there is a fever followed by some, I mean, the chief complaint with localization of disease process was to CNS and CVS, the CNS and respiratory system. And you have only one episode, which is paroxysmal sudden onset. So, I mean, wouldn't it be too much of a jump if you directly put this complaint as a spell?
No, no, sir. But this is a very late as a chief complaint for the CVS. But it could be due to the there is a less obstruction to the less mild cardiovascular underlying disorder that can be present at this stage.
No, but why should there be only be one episode? That is the question. Acute onset of illness with only one episode, which has started. I mean, when was this? How many days back? How many years back?
Sorry, this is last 5 to 6 days back. This episode is after.
So he is at the age of 22 months, not before that.
Yes, ma'am.
He said that this child has calmed down later on. So,
yes, ma'am.
Further describe that, whether any specific position or how did the child calm down?
After taking in the lap of the grandmother, his babies started regular normal breathing, and that episode is resolved.
So what I mean to say is, would you like to lock kar diya jaye sort of thing कि this is breath holding spell, or would you like to keep it as open paroxysmal event? It can still be CNS related. It can be conversion.
Yes, sir. I would like to open this again for detail history.
Then it's okay.
What was the timing of the episode?
Yes, sir.
Timing of the episode and presence of fever during the episode.
As the grandmother not properly noticed the fever at that time, but the episode is in the 9:10 a.m. in the morning period, and it is resolved in after calming.
Okay. Was there any change of color during this episode?
Parent not given directly history of the changing color during episode.
Was there have you done any direct questioning, positive elicitable history?
Yes, sir.
I think Santosh is giving it the history later on. Can we just ask him to?
Yeah,
just give the history in detail.
Yeah.
Just proceed.
Hello, Bhimsen.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
You're telling me that the grandmother is quite reliable. Is this that the child is nursed by the grandmother every time? There is no role of any mother over here, because regarding the discoloration and all, is the grandmother having a good vision to understand whether there is the bluish discoloration? You have written on direct questioning. Grandmother says she observes bluish discoloration. The vision so good.
Ma'am, I am not audible.
Hello,
हाँ ma'am. Can you repeat?
is it audible now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I want to ask you whether the grandmother's vision is good.
The voice
Madam,
is
I think there are two devices going on, so we are hearing an echo, ma'am.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, fine. So I just wanted to ask Bhimsen, is the grandmother reliable enough with a good vision to tell you that she has observed the grayish blue discoloration of the nails and fingertips?
Ma'am, mother was actually not there, but the grandmother is also present 24 hours along with her patient. That's a
Okay.
reliable sir for the history.
Okay, so grandmother is quite reliable, even if there is any past history related, whether she is reliable enough to tell you everything. Is she the only sole caretaker?
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't tell us any history of the parents. Does the child have the parents, I mean the mother, or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Does this baby have a mother or no to look after?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, baby has the mother, but she is laborer. That's why he is not came to hospital. And baby is 24 hours and remain along with the grandmother. That's why grandmother is a reliable source.
Okay, fine.
मला असं वाटतंय की what Santosh sir has told us is true, which is this is a paroxysmal episode, and which is relieved after 10 to 15 minutes with some kind of consoling or something like that, and that's all we know about it. We are not sure whether there is cyanosis, whether there is altered sensorium, whether there is uprolling of the eyeballs or something. So I think that word paroxysmal said by Santosh is actually the key word, and that's it about it. And then when you said that this is a spell, or what spell did you say? Cyanotic spell or breath holding spell? Breath holding spell has got a very typical description which doesn't seem to be matching in this particular scenario. I think let's move on. We will call this paroxysmal and move on further.
There is a history of decreased oral intake since last 1 month. There is also history of reduced interest in play and activity as compared to elder sibling. Grandmother also failed. The child appears pale as compared to elder sibling. There is a history of loosening of the clothes since last 2 months. On direct questioning, ma'am, grandmother said that she observed there is a grayish blue discoloration of the nails and fingertips. There is no history of cough, cold, noisy breathing, or chest indrawing. No history of repeated nebulization and hospitalization. There is no history of convulsion, vomiting. There is no history of crying during micturition or any eyes or ear discharge. There is no history of COVID contact. There is no history of suck-rest-suck cycle and forehead sweating while feeding. There is no history of painful swelling over fingertips.
Bhim Singh, why did you ask for history of crying during micturition in this case?
Ma'am, for the to rule out the acute episode, he has a fever and crying to rule out the focus of the infection, just for the acute complaint.
So you wanted to rule out urinary tract
infection,
right? So which urinary tract infection comes with apneic episodes or difficulty in breathing?
No, ma'am, such episode is not there, but just for the rule out the fever and.
So you wanted to tell me the focus of infection, right? But I would suggest that, don't invite unnecessary questions for your exam.
Okay.
I mean, it could have been easily an act of omission and skipped. Okay?
Okay.
So what is your analysis of the case after your negative history?
So patient having some chronic underlying conditions is with acute episode of any acute infection, which is super added presently, which is came with.
So what things tell you that there is chronicity? What else what is things tell you that there is something which is acute? What will be the localization of disease process? I mean, which system you will try to localize the disease process now? And you have to tell me the points which are favor and against at each of the step.
Bhim Singh, sorry to interrupt, but show us the previous slide.
Yeah, even I wanted to go to that.
there is a decreased oral intake with decreased loosening of weight with decreased activity according to the grandmother, decreased activity as compared to elder sibling, and there is a bluish discoloration of grayish blue discoloration of the nails and fingertips. All are positive complaints favoring that there is chronicity, that is not acute condition.
Anything else? Now, localization of disease process.
So for the CVS, sir, maybe the CVS, there is grayish blue discoloration of the nails and fingertip. There maybe could be the cyanosis.
Since when she's saying that?
Since ma'am, she has grandmother has observed since last 1.5 months.
Only 1.5 months.
Yes, ma'am.
So you mean this is going only since last 1.5 months? Before that, the child was absolutely normal?
According to grandmother, ma'am, definitely there is a history of the patient is absolutely normal.
Bhim, do you see something different written here in 2 sentences? The grandmother felt that the child is looking very pale, and then she's observing a grayish bluish discoloration. Can these two things coexist?
Because it is very contradictory.
Ma'am, grandmother doesn't give direct history on direct questioning of the then grandmother felt that something is wrong with nail. She observed, but directly not given complaint of the grayish blue discoloration.
But did she give you a direct history of that pallor that the mother has observed?
Yes, ma'am.
So can you get history of cyanosis in a child who's grossly pale? Something which the grandmother has also picked up.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Along with the severe paleness, cyanosis is not obviously pick up and not present. But that's why on direct questioning, grandmother tells directly not given.
So what also, madam, wants to ask Bhim Singh is what made you ask that question of bluish discoloration of nails and fingertips? Because
sir, he has directly given the history of the decreased interest in the play and activity as compared to elder sibling.
Why should that make you ask the question of bluish discoloration?
Maybe due to there is a decreased play activity.
No, was this question, I mean, for the benefit of other students, what we are trying to do we are just trying to analyze these chief complaints so that we come to some logical conclusion of the system which is involved. So here, I mean, ma'am, is it okay because other students are listening and they may not benefit by just we asking the question? So I'll just analyze this a bit.
Santosh, absolutely right.
Yeah. So basically, what I was trying to do is, after chief complaints, we need to have a logical thinking in mind where there is a set of differentials and we want to rule them out depending upon the priority. That was the reason we initially asked you what is the analysis of chief complaints. Now, after the chief complaints analysis, it's an acute problem. There is inflammation or infection which is involved, and there may be involvement of either respiratory system or neurological system, CNS. Now, with the negative history which has come and some direct questioning which he has told, as I have told him or as I perceive, we have kept that detailed description of the event open, and we have just only come to the conclusion that it was a paroxysmal event. It may still be an event which is related to CNS. It may be a plain breath holding spell, or it may be a cyanotic spell which is related to heart. So that is the only thing which we have come to know, and that event is still open to questions because
Or it may be arrhythmia also. Short arrhythmia.
Yes, ma'am, but it's very rare for arrhythmia to present as a bolt from the blue in a 2.5-year-old kid. Most of them tolerate SVTs very well, unless it is long QT syndrome and baby has VT, polymorphic.
Santosh, how I interpret this history is typical. The episode, it cannot be called as episodic unless you have a second episode. Yes. So this was only one event. Secondly, it started with crying. So crying was the inciting event, and it was relieved by rest. when the child was calm, it went away, and it was associated with breathing difficulty. So it's a event which is precipitated by cry and relieved by soothing. Okay, and is associated with respiratory distress. So it is breathlessness with exertion, classical breathlessness with exertion of excessive crying. And the baseline blueness of the nails, which is very suspicious on history. If it is a truth, I will say it is a compensated state of hypoxia precipitated by the crying and relieved by the rest.
So basically, the conclusion, Bhim Singh, is that it is a chronic problem with some acute insult, which is there. Localization of the disease process, because now if we consider this bluish discoloration, CVS is there. It can still be a respiratory problem and CNS issue. Sampada ma'am, anything else?
No, I don't agree about the CNS and pulmonary in this case at all.
Sir, Sandeep Patil sir is here. He wants to comment. There is one entity called as dichristic seizure, which actually is in simple terms, it is a crying seizure. Like, in a hypothalamic hamartoma, you have gelastic seizures, as well as you can have this dichristic seizure, where the child cries and then they will have some abnormal behavior. So it's the behavior change we need to note down. And obviously, breath holding spells, cyanotic spells, these are very difficult to differentiate. So as Santosh was saying that, you should have a logical plan about how to differentiate between all these CNS, CVS causes, and you should proceed with that.
And Sandeep, one more thing is that will these dichristic seizures be halted by calming the child?
No,
so that's when
they are like self-limiting seizures.
So then they will never be what actually calms the child. I agree with Pramod sir is that what actually calms the child will stop the sympathetic overdrives and is halting the process. So this has to have some cardiac element associated with this. It may be a super added cardiac with an underlying respiratory possible. But CNS definitely third on the list. Definitely not in the first two.
Agree.
So,
one thing is that these seizures are mostly self-limiting and short. Suppose if someone starts having seizure and in a seizure, the baby starts crying, and once the mother picks up the child and starts soothing the child, and the seizure ends. So it can be taken as that, soothing has helped the child. But, obviously it is third in list.
But second thing is, Bhim Singh, one more thing you told me about the clothes which were loosening. Whenever you want to defend yourself into cardiology, cyanotic heart disease, I think more than the weight loss, you should comment on the stunting. So if you could have given me a sentence that the size of the clothes have not changed from 1 year to 22 months, they actually can make out from the length of the pants that the child is not growing as tall. That will add more weightage to your case of a cardiovascular presentation and chronicity of the problem. Okay, so just don't document weight loss, document stunting whenever you're giving history, by taking history of clothes which are shortening and obvious height compared to the other siblings. Okay.
Here I would like to add that loss of weight, what he has said about, must be a secondary process not related to the primary cardiac disease or an acquired cardiac disease with cyanosis we should think of.
Ma'am, so it is very rare now, 2.5 year acquired heart disease and causing cyanosis.
So we should entertain some additional pathology, catabolic state in this child. Which is
definitely. I think that overall it tells us that it may not be something which is single system involved and straightforward issue. That much conclusion definitely we can draw. So one short, just quick case, Sandeep. The seizure what you have told is correct, but I just want to tell all students again it has to be a commonality. When you are talking or interpreting the findings, at least at the negative history level. So you have to go with common things first, and things which you as a resident have seen over last 3 years while interpreting the things, rather than, I mean, yes, if you can tell some rare diagnosis or rare reason, it's okay. But common things should be analyzed first. That is very important.
Santosh, two things.
I agree with Dr. Santosh.
Number one, loss or altered consciousness, number one, and there is respiratory distress following the event, which is taking some time to go away, which cannot be neurological.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, continue, Bhim Singh. Sir.
Past history, there is no history of major illness and previous hospitalization. Family history is a third degree consanguineous marriage with no significant family history. Birth history, mother is 26-year-old, ANC registered, antenatal scan were normal, received iron and folic acid supplement and injection TT. There is no history of fever, rash and drug intake. There is no history of diabetes or any major illness. Baby delivered is full term, normal delivery, cried immediately after birth. Birth weight was 3.1 kg and was breastfed immediately after birth. There is no history of any postnatal complication.
Any particular scan you would have asked for antenatal scan, because for so many of them consider a one Doppler at 36 weeks of gestation, and they will tell ki sir sagre ultrasound केले होते जन्माच्या आधीचे.
Grandmother just tell me they have done the UAG during ANC, and the doctor tells.
No, sir. If I were to tell you which scan.
No, sir. No, sir. Detailed history of the scan.
No. This, I am not asking you about this patient, Bhim Singh. I am just asking you, if you want, have a choice of asking a question, will you ask for any particular scan? Ki ha kela hota ka?
Anomaly scan, sir. Yes, sir. Anomaly scan we can do.
Kiti आठवड्यांना, kiti weeks na करतात usually?
Sir, anomaly scan is for 18 to 20 weeks of the gestation.
Very good. Very good. So that is important.
Bhim Singh, did you ask for history of drugs? Which drugs did you ask for?
Sir, for ma'am, any teratogenic drugs throughout any she has.
So are you talking about in general teratogenic drugs, or in this particular case
in this particular case for those teratogenic drugs, what is the CVS?
Which ones? So you have to name, no, in the exam.
Yes,
you have to give me a list.
Valproate, anti-epileptic, anticonvulsant like valproate.
So which anticonvulsant causes this picture?
Valproic acid, ma'am.
Valproic acid gives this picture?
May cause, ma'am, congenital VSD or
something which is something to do with a congenital cyanotic heart. Which is the drug?
Maybe, ma'am, for infertility, clomiphene citrate was previously used.
Clomiphene citrate causes congenital cyanotic heart disease.
Yes, ma'am.
Does? Sure. Have you heard of something where a drug which is used for manic depressive psychosis, bipolar disease?
Lithium.
Oh, so what does it cause?
Lithium may cause, ma'am, Epstein anomalies.
Yeah, so that is one. And any other, you said fever with rash. Any fever with rash causing congenital cyanotic heart?
Yes, ma'am. Congenital rubella may cause the patent ductus.
Congenital cyanotic heart hoto ka teni?
Pulmonary stenosis. Second thing, ma'am, pulmonary stenosis may be associated.
So PS is a congenital cyanotic heart disease, Bhim Singh? Peripheral pulmonary stenosis, is it a congenital cyanotic? So you said you want to look at the bluish discoloration, right? So then the examiner is going to ask you these questions. So be ready with those answers, okay? Which folate antagonists are you worried about? Which can cause TAPVC?
Carbamazepine.
No. Will you find out the answers? Write down a list. It's always all the residents. I always tell you the list of the diseases and the congenital hearts they're going to cause. It's an undergraduate question, but sometimes is asked as a postgraduate question to start the Viva. Okay. So especially in cardiac cases, they are going to ask you, especially, mums causing endocardial fibroelastosis, etc., etc. These diseases, please write down the names and the answers. Okay. And plus, I feel that, this question is not relevant here because I don't think that the grandmother must be knowing also which drug the mother was taking. Okay, so be a little careful while answering these questions. Okay.
Actually, the problem is I am feeling that the grandmother herself telling all these histories, we have to take with a pinch of salt. So the whole birth history also, I am not very sure whether she's told it rightly.
Okay, go ahead, Bhimsi.
Immunization history. Patient was complete immunization till 9 months of age according to national immunization schedule. Last vaccine was received measles rubella first dose at 9 months. Subsequent vaccination was the pending.
Beam Singh, for the benefit of other residents, please never write this answer like completed till 9 months of age as per NIP. You have to mention which vaccines were given, which were not given, because there are certain states where pneumococcal is given, certain states where pneumococcal is not given, and it is relevant in our case. Okay, so please don't, for developmental history and immunization history, even if it's a short case residents, please enumerate the vaccinations which have been completed, including the flu vaccination right now. And never write this because it can sometimes irritate the examiners. Okay, so the list has to be provided. कौन सा लिया है, कौन सा नहीं लिया है, BCG दिया है, scar present, absent, ये सब लिखना है उस पे. ठीक है? Okay, आगे developmental.
Development history. The patient has complete neck holding is actually at 4 months, sit with support 9 months, sit without support 12 months, and stand with support by 15 months. And presently he is walk with support 18 months.
So what is your interpretation after this developmental history? What does this suggest?
Ma'am, this is the gross motor delay, which patient is presently just walk with support. She is not able to walk without support. There is a delay in the gross motor.
What?
Fine motor. Patient achieves bidextrous reach as 5 months, unidextrous reach as 8 months, immature pins are 9 months, mature pins as 12 months. Presently, he is able to scribble as 18 months.
So fine motor is normal?
Yes, ma'am.
Only gross motor delay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next.
Next.
Language milestone. He is presently, ma'am, speak 2 to 3 word sentences at the 22 month. His language milestone is also normal. As social milestone, he is presently asked for the food and is also normal. The total developmental quotient is 82%.
So what do you mean after this developmental history? What is the analysis of the developmental history being said?
Ma'am, there is a isolated gross motor delay, significantly isolated gross motor delay as compared to the other domain.
What are the consequences of an isolated gross motor delay?
Yes, ma'am.
What are the common causes where they just?
Ma'am, there may be the chronic underlying infections, maybe because there is a nutrition, underlying poor nutrition. Second thing, the deficiency of vitamin D or minerals and vitamins.
For this case, what do you think this case, there is a gross motor delay? What could be the cause in this case?
The patient apparently having the severe pallor, and second thing, there is a blue-gray discoloration that more prone, favoring the cardiovascular disorders, and the severe pallor is favoring there is a undernutrition or there is a inadequate nutrition. Both are supporting to there is a gross motor delay.
So why in congenital heart disease do you think nutrition is affected? What are the causes of undernutrition in congenital heart disease? Both you tell about acyanotic and cyanotic.
In cyanotic congenital heart disease, there is a chronic hypoxia. Is more prone to develop the delay in gross motor. And while in acyanotic congenital heart disease, there is a repeated infections and LRTI. The second thing, there is poor nutrition.
Mixing with 3 components here available until this point of history. One is consanguineous marriage, though 3rd degree. Second, is gross motor delay, and third is possible heart involvement. What comes to your mind?
Maybe associated with this syndromic with congenital any syndrome.
What is depictive of syndrome here? Of course, that will come after you do a examination, right?
Yes,
How can you tell on the basis of the history?
Ma'am, he has said said that there is a history of third-degree consanguineous marriage with congenital heart disease, with poor nutrition. There are the multi-system involvement. These are favoring the maybe syndrome child.
What is suggestive of multi-system involvement here? You mean to say CNS as well as CVS?
Or there is isolated delay in the
Isolated motor delay. Does that count out towards a CNS involvement only?
no, ma'am. There maybe ma'am, there may be muscle dystrophies or anything that the congenital muscle myopathies may cause the delay in gross motor mainly.
Okay, go ahead.
Dietary history, 24-hour recall, patient take 770 kilocalorie and 12 gram protein. For his age, requirement is 700 kilocalorie and 17 gram protein, 30 kilocalorie and 5 gram protein. His patient was taking only milk and for 24 hours.
Only milk
and biscuits.
What are the complications you get whenever you have consumption of milk and biscuits only? What do you think you will expect in a child on symptoms?
Ma'am, there is maybe calcium deficiency may be there. Then the iron deficiency may be there.
So calcium deficiency?
Yes, ma'am.
With consumption of milk, how?
Cow milk consumption may cause the calcium deficiency.
So calcium at 22 months is governed by your intake or is governed by something else?
Intake, ma'am.
Sure. Is there any hormone involved in the calcium metabolism?
Parathormone, ma'am.
Okay. Iron deficiency, you said. Yes. Any other biggest problem you encounter when there is excessive intake of biscuits and milk? Commonest problem you get in pediatrics?
Allergic colitis may be the cow milk.
What does it lead to?
Yes, sir.
How does a child present to you? You must have seen it in your OPD, right?
Any common GI symptoms in infants and toddlers?
Any gastric motility issues?
Yes, ma'am. Diarrhea.
Diarrhea
उलट होतं.
Constipation.
एवढा मैदा खाल्ल्यावर काय होईल?
Constipation, ma'am. Biscuit may lead to constipation.
May not always. Okay, go ahead.
Socio-economic history. Patient belong to the, according to modified Kupuswamy scale, is a upper lower class.
Okay, next
slide.
Anthropometry. Weight is 8.6 kg. Present length is 83 centimeter. Mid upper arm circumference is 12 centimeter. Head circumference is 47 centimeter. Weight for age is -2 to -3 standard deviation. Length for age is median to -1 standard deviation. Weight for length is less than -3 standard deviation. The implementation of the anthropometry is severe acute malnourishment.
But what in severe acute malnutrition? Can you look at the weight and the height and the mid upper arm circumference and differentiate? Is this what is the prominent thing here? What is more affected, weight or length?
Weight is length is normal.
This child is able to stand?
Yes, sir. He is able to stand with support.
With support.
Do you take
length, I have taken, ma'am, length.
Do you agree with this finding of your with your with your history of cyanosis, etc.?
I wanted to
Do
ask
you
same
think
question.
this is appropriate? Weight is 8.6 and length is 83 centimeter. What is wasting and what is stunting? Can you tell me the definitions of wasting and stunting, please?
Ma'am, wasting is the decrease in the weight for height.
Wait for?
Weight for length. And the stunting is a length for age.
And what is Z score?
Z score is less than -3 standard deviation.
No. What is Z score?
म्हणजे काय Z
What is
score
the
म्हणजे
definition
काय?
of Z score? तू लिहिलंयस तिथे. You've written it. Students can't go wrong. I mean, they may not ask you anything about congenital cyanotic heart disease if you go wrong in your anthropometry and nutrition. So, do you feel that this child is stunted?
Z-score चा काय संबंध आहे?
No, ma'am. The child is not stunted.
Not stunted.
ते बरोबर आहे का? म्हणजे stunting नाही असं. Do you agree with it?
Are you surprised or not? Knowing the diagnosis.
Yes, sir. For the cyanotic congenital heart disease, if you, I'm thinking there should be the length should be stunted.
No, I mean if you go back, I mean after the examination, sometimes you have to revisit your findings, right? If you go back, you've done your examination, and you find that this child is not stunted, will you be happy as a pediatrician or you will be unhappy as a pediatrician? What does it tell you? If there is no stunting in a child of CCHD, are you happy or no?
Happy, ma'am.
Yeah, very good. You should be happy. What does that tell you?
That means there is no, ma'am, chronic hypoxia that is due to the sign of
Exactly, and that is why this child was never symptomatic till the age of
22 months.
So you're not really looking like a very, very grave or a severe disease, isn't it? Matu sang na magashi, you were asked this question by Santosh, na, that he didn't have any other complaints till 22 months. Possibly he was never symptomatic before 22 months is because probably he was not real, he was very well compensated. He was not really, because you know, sometimes pink fallows don't present to you so early. Right. Only thing is that time that the grandmother is never going to give you a history of bluish discoloration. That is something which is not fitting, which Dr. Deepali ma'am was also asking you 10 times. Are you very sure that the grandmother gave you this history? Okay.
Each of the histories is telling us that this is earlier than 22 months. It's not few days or months. The child has severe acute malnutrition. How much time does it take to translate into failure to thrive or weight loss actually? Can it be 22 months? It must be few months prior to it.
Losing the history is over.
So we cannot say that the child is totally asymptomatic till the age of 2, because failure to thrive itself it is telling that probably this child is suffering since.
Yes, ma'am. But Deepa ma'am, it's so difficult to justify a child not growing well height-wise. And not growing well weight-wise. That is what it can be a very acute phenomenon in the last 1.5 months also, which we do not know. So are we looking at something super added on the congenital cyanotic, which is precipitating some problems right now?
Is it
It's a balanced problem, and now there is which is adding to the
something which is adding to the problem which already existed.
Yes, there is some mild chronic going on, and now some acute exaggeration.
Yes, yes. Okay, go ahead, Bhim Singh.
And the diet is grossly inadequate.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have to add that as an etiology to everything rather than trying to explain everything on heart. It may be the dietary inadequacies.
Yes.
Yes.
Just one question to Dr. Sanjay and Dr. Mapre sir. Sir, we generally take our anthropometry after the vitals. In MUHS, is anthropometry given before the vitals?
Yeah, we can do it both ways actually. I actually specifically asked him to take it before the vitals. He had written it after the vitals, but I had told him to take it before vitals actually.
Okay, because sometimes, you know, the North Indian and Gujarat examiners have a problem with this presentation. They say that we do the vitals first and the anthropometry. So I was just trying to clarify it. Okay.
Okay.
Can be taken at any time. At the end of history.
Okay, go ahead.
General exam.
Vimsing, 1 minute, just a minute. Now, before general examination, we need to recap your case properly, because I mean the resident might still be very vague. There have been, I mean, we are just bombarding with the questions, but we don't know what this still is. So, can you just quickly recap what do you feel your patient has now? After all these questions and all the negative history and anthropometry.
So patient has the positive history of the decreased oral intake with decreased weight loss was there. Second thing, there is a paroxysmal episode of the one event. Third thing is the there is a gray bluish discoloration of the nail was there. There is decreased interest of the activity and the play as compared to the sibling. These are the these things. And second thing is the on the according to in development history, there is isolated gross motor delay was also present. And third thing is in anthropometry wise, there is a severe acute malnourishment. These all things suggestive of there is a chronic underlying there is chronic underlying condition which is presently precipitated by the superadded infections with that paroxysmal episode. And
my question, do you feel it is congenital?
There is a congenital condition which is a
okay. It is congenital. Do you what is the definition of disease process to the system? You can still give differential, but what will be the first?
The first is for that first is a cardiovascular system is most commonly involvement. Second thing,
why do cardiovascular system is involved? What is the characteristic symptom which localizes the disease process to see?
So there is cyanosis of the cyanosis.
Okay, so we will assume that there is cyanosis here, that bluish discoloration. So if it is cyanosis, then the disease process gets localized to
CVS.
So it is a congenital problem, most likely localized disease process.
One clarification, Santosh. He told us that the cyanosis is only there on the nails.
Yeah.
So does it?
Ma'am, here I am just assuming it for the purpose of analysis, because what has happened, otherwise we may not come to any conclusion.
Okay. Sure.
So it's a congenital problem, most likely cardiovascular system is involved. You say likely it's a cyanotic heart problem. Now what I want to ask you is, what are the syndromes or symptoms with which various CVS problems present, and where does this fit?
Yes, sir.
So what are the various symptomatic presentations of the cardiovascular system? What if the pathophysiology? There are pathophysiological groups. So first, usually whenever you're presenting the case, you localize the disease process to a particular system. Now you have localized the disease process to cardiovascular system. What further things will come to your mind to fine-tune your localization or differential?
This is congenital cyanotic heart disease with there is no history of repeated hospitalization and.
Okay, it's okay. What I just wanted to tell students is, whenever you have localized the disease process, this is I always keep on teaching. You should have come these are the 5 things which should come to your mind. Whether it's a volume overload lesion, whether it is a top physiology, whether it is a mixing lesion or parallel circulation, whether it is a primary myocardial problem, or whether it was a rhythm problem. So ideally, when you have localized the disease process to cardiovascular system, all your questions and interpretation of further anthropometry, you should try to put your CVS problem into one of this basket. Is it a volume lesion, mixing lesion, or a top physiology, primary myocardial problem, or a rhythm issue? So with data which you have got, what do you feel your patient has?
The patient has a top physiology, maybe.
Yeah, so I would not say patient has top physiology, because everything here on history is pointing towards mixing lesion. So for the benefit of just student, what I'm trying to analyze here is, this patient has more of, as Sampada ma'am told, more of weight loss. It is more of a acute, what you can say, loss of weight, and stunting is not that significant. Again, the cyanosis was not very obvious. There is one episode of spell which, if we take into consideration, then yes, it can be top physiology. But if we still keep that episode of spell parked, if we are not sure what it was, then even a mixing lesion or a parallel circulation should be kept in mind.
Yes.
One thing which is very obvious is cyanosis was not completely obvious, and there is more loss of weight. Developmental delay definitely is there. That again goes more in favor of congenital heart. So this is the conclusion. It's a congenital problem, most likely heart problem, most likely a cyanotic congenital heart disease, likely a top physiology, but we'll still keep a mixing lesion, parallel circulation at the back of the mind. Patient is unlikely to be in failure with the history, whatever he has given. And there can be an additional, what has made this patient present now can be an additional problem in the form of infection or anemia, because there is very obvious history of pallor. Again, into bracket, it is contrasting with the cyanosis thing, what child is having. Okay, go ahead now.
Santosh, I somehow cannot understand the possibility of mixing lesions here, because mixing lesions will have flare up or correction depending on the physiological shunts. So what happens at 22 months of age? A mixing lesion would be presenting quite earlier than that, after first 2 months or something. So left-sided
unobstructed
with mixing lesion.
No, sir, unobstructed TAPVCs, transposition with VSDs, all of them are known to live till 22 months of age if it's a balanced physiology. So if you have transposition VSD is not very large, you can present TAPVC unobstructed. Cardiac TAPVCs can live up to 22 months of age. So if you go by commonality, yes, top physiology will always top the list after 1 year of age. Most of the mixing lesions get eliminated before 1 year of age.
Go ahead, Bhim Singh.
Patient was afebrile. Pulse rate was 160 beats per minute. Palpated on the right radial artery in supine position. Regularly in rhythm. Normal in force. Volume. No radio-radial or radio-femoral delay. All peripheral pulses were well fed and equal. Respiratory rate was 34 cycles per minute with no retractions. On taking the saturation, in the right upper limb, saturation was 74%, while in left upper limb, 75%. Saturation on the right lower limb was 73%, and the left lower limb, 75%. Blood pressure is on all 4 limbs, upper limb and lower limb, is a 50 to 90 centimes.
Okay, next.
Hello, Bhimsen. SpO2 was in room air or on oxygen?
On room air. Sorry, ma'am.
Okay. You have to mention there, okay?
On room air.
Yeah.
There was severe pallor seen. Being grade 3 was present.
Where did you look for pallor, Bhim Singh? Where did you look for pallor in a child with congenital cyanotic heart?
Arm, ma'am.
Arm.
Nail beds, palm.
But the nail beds are cyanos, na?
Yes, ma'am.
So where will you look for pallor? Did you look at the palpebral conjunctiva?
I mean that, yes, ma'am.
In this child, what has happened to it?
Yes, ma'am.
What has happened? Is there any hyperemia? What has happened to the conjunctiva?
Congestion, ma'am. There should be congestion, but this.
So there should नहीं. इस patient में क्या है?
Pallor है, ma'am.
You mean to say that the conjunctiva, palpebral conjunctiva also, there was no hyperemia, there was pallor?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you still are getting a nail bed which is blue in color.
Yes, ma'am. Mild blueness.
Do we have a photo, Bhimsen? Do we have a video or a photo of the cyanosis?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Which is the best place to look for central cyanosis, Bhim Singh?
Tongue, ma'am. Tongue and oral mucosa.
So what has happened to that? I mean, you're looking at nail beds. Was there any cyanosis in the tongue or oral mucosa?
No, ma'am.
There was no cyanosis there. Then how can you have cyanosis in the nail beds? Is it peripheral cyanosis? Is it central cyanosis? Cyanosis in the nail beds is peripheral cyanosis or is it central cyanosis?
Peripheral cyanosis, ma'am.
So then do you think this is central cyanosis? Is this central congenital cyanotic heart or it's something else?
Ma'am, patient having severe pallor, there is no visible any cyanosis.
So then it should not be there in the nail beds as well, no?
Ma'am, there is no obviously bluishness in the nail. There is mild.
Don't talk about it. If you're going to tell me that the conjunctiva is not hyperemic, if there is severe pallor, if there is loss of creases on the dorsum, on the palmar surface of your hand, so please don't talk about any nail beds having cyanosis because you're contradicting your own self. Okay. So how can you have a nail bed which is blue and the tongue which is normal? Did you see when the child is feeding or the child is crying? Did you see what has happened to the tongue?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there any cyanosis?
No, ma'am. There is no cyanosis.
So don't talk about it. I mean, that's what I feel. Santosh, give your view on it.
No, ma'am. This child has subtle cyanosis, ma'am. He has proper central cyanosis. The problem is central cyanosis. Problem is we will tell ideal. It's not an ideal case for a MD person to present, ma'am, because that patient has a lot of other issues also.
Does he have?
He has that.
टंग वर होता का संतोष टंग आणि सॉफ्ट पॅलेट वर
डस्की आहे त्याची टंग आणि हे सगळं डस्की आहे. I may not have been able to pick up pallor, but the moment I saw that child, it was a cyanotic heart disease only.
So it is always Bhimsing better to comment and commit that there is central cyanosis as well, because this is going to take your case into a different direction. Okay.
And the saturation, which are obviously 70. The child has to have cyanosis. If the saturations in room air are
74.
Yes.
Definitely has to have cyanosis.
Okay.
No, sir. If hemoglobin is 6 or 8, it may not be there. But the thing here is again, as I've told you, if you want to commit your wager, तुला जर का बेटच लावायची तुझ्या एक्झाम मध्ये, so it is always easy. It will be easier for you to say cyanosis first and explain why you are seeing cyanosis than explaining that my patient has a congenital cyanotic heart disease, top physiology, but because there is anemia, I am not able to see cyanosis. खूपच it will be very difficult and unnecessarily complicated stuff. So I mean, I personally feel that at your MD level, after spending 3 years in a good medical college with teachers like us and Sampada ma'am, you should be smart enough to say ki, sir, I was able to see cyanosis, saturation is 76%. And
Santosh,
later on,
I have a caveat for this. The patient is in front of the
hemoglobin kami आला तर चालतं.
Santosh, the problem is the patient is in front of the examiner. So what the examiner has to see, the same thing the examiner and the student are seeing. So it is difficult to say something when it is not visible also.
Santosh, sorry Sanjay, sorry to interrupt, but you know Sanjay, generally when somebody gives me a saturation of 74 and says that there is no cyanosis, the examiner is going to get up and see. If he's going to say that clubbing grade 3 is present, central cyanosis is present, peripheral cyanosis is also present, less likely for an examiner to get up and wake up a sleeping examiner.
Is this moderate pallor or severe pallor?
Severe pallor.
Severe.
What was the hemoglobin? Just
6 gram per deciliter.
6 is little borderline, isn't it? So if it was less than 5, then you would probably not.
When Santosh is saying that the child obviously looked dusky, why have two minds two doubts in your mind? No, unnecessarily don't create a problem for yourself. See, basically it's not about knowing stuff, but being smart enough in the exam to actually handle such a difficult and tricky situation. Okay?
Sampada, believe me, the cyanosis was not very obvious.
Sanjay,
it was
not obvious. Santosh is saying that the child is dusky. I mean, it is for the examiners to decide, but I personally feel for the student's benefit,
then I see the patient.
There are photos of the fingernails also which will show that there is severe pallor, but hardly any cyanosis that is visual.
So then why has he written over there cyanosis at the nail beds and fingertips?
See, if you observe it in good light, you can see a cyanosis. But otherwise, it is very difficult to pick up obvious cyanosis.
But Sanjay, then that in good light, even the examiner will be able to pick up. So don't worry.
So, I mean, it is very...
I understand, Sanjay, completely understand. But the thing is that it will be difficult for him only to defend himself.
Absolutely, it is difficult to defend. That is why it is not a simple case to defend actually or present. But the findings are what he is telling.
I have already
Santosh,
told
yeah.
Bhim Singh. Ma'am, I have already told Bhim Singh he is a really brave person to present this case on an IIT forum. So when I did the echo that time only, I told him he is
So
a very
according
brave
to
man.
us, Bhim Singh, you already passed. But okay,
And
go
we
ahead.
don't want any manipulation in the case presentation.
Okay, okay.
Okay, fine. Clubbing
Fine.
present, cyanosis present. Okay,
Can
go
we
ahead.
can
Bhim
we
Singh.
can we just have a picture of what you all were saying in the general examination? Have you all inserted the pic?
Yes, ma'am. I have added P.
Yeah.
There
Bhim
is
Singh, just show the picture first.
पुढे पण आहे.
Okay. आहे ना बऱ्यापैकी दिसतंय त्याच्यात.
पेल आहे. हो.
Clubbed आहे.
क्लबिंग जास्त prominent आहे cyanosis पेक्षा.
Pale, pallor and clubbing are very prominent. Any other
Okay,
case?
go ahead.
Okay, fine. Okay, go to previous slides. Yes.
severe pallor was present. Clubbing grade 3 was present. Cyanosis at nail bed and fingertips was present. Dental caries was there. There is no edema, lymphadenopathy. Anterior fontanelle was closed. Raised head to toe examination was normal.
What is the clinical relevance of dental caries being present in this child, Bhim Singh?
Maybe, ma'am, there is a risk for the development of the infective endocarditis.
Okay, good. Okay.
What else you would like to see in general examination in a cardiovascular case?
Ma'am, from head to toe to look the any.
Yes.
Ma'am, are you audible?
Hello.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
from head to toe examination, they may look for any cataract for cataract to rule out any congenital abnormality. Then for endoscopic examination to any like Baker signs or any Landolfi sign to check this. Then the lens is lens in normal position or not to rule out it.
Landorfin sign in a congenital cyanotic heart disease.
No, ma'am, in normal cardiovascular.
Okay.
Head to toe.
Okay.
Bhim Singh, what is the possible cause of the dental caries depending on the pattern what you have projected?
Ma'am, he is he is taking biscuits and all that. There may be poor hygiene.
Incisors and canines, you said. What is it called as and what it relates to? What
Yeah.
would be the mode of feeding of this child?
Exactly. Yes.
Bottle feeding, sir.
Bottle
Yes.
fed caries.
Okay.
Extensive childhood caries, nighttime feeding.
Yes. What else on general examination? You said what other any anomalies you would like to see? Multi-system involvement you would like to see?
Ma'am, any abnormal faces in the dysmorphic faces is there or not to rule out congenital A. Second,
Yes.
to this skeletal system, any abnormal thumbs or fingers.
Yes.
Second thing,
Any complication related to the disease you would like to see?
painful. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Any complications related to the disease itself?
Painful swellings like Osler's nodes or Roth spot.
So signs of
Infected endocarditis, ma'am.
yes, and
Okay.
And signs of congestive cardiac failure also.
So system-specific cardiovascular signs are signs of CCF, signs of infective endocarditis. In a bigger child, signs of rheumatic activity. And in a bigger child or in a small young infant with BST, signs of aortic regurgitation. So these are 4 signs which you as presidents have to mention in general examination. Okay? Okay.
On systemic examination, cardiovascular system, on inspection, there is no precordial bulge, no dilated veins noted. The apical impulse seen at the level of nipple areolar complex on left side, which is the diffuse and lateral to mid-clavicular line. There is no visible pulsation seen over the chest.
What do you interpret from this, Bhim Singh? There are 2 interpretations from your inspection.
there is no precordial bulge. That means, ma'am, there should be no chronic any heart disease. In chronic disorder,
So you feel this is no chronic heart disease, meaning there's no congenital heart only. This is acquired heart.
What does no precordial bulge tell you?
there is no any hypertrophy or
Yes.
of the heart.
So this is something to add to what Dr. Santosh sir just mentioned, is that he kept a possibility of a parallel circulation or a mixing defect in mind, right? When he gave you a differential diagnosis. The fact that there is no precordial bulge is trying to keep that differential diagnosis way too down the list. Okay. So possibility of a Fallot's physiology would be higher when there is no precordial bulge. Okay. And second possibility of the apical impulse, which you're just saying that is shifted to the left side, meaning? What do you mean by that?
That is a RV type of the apex. No?
Great. Okay, great. Aage bolo.
On palpation, the inspectory finding or confirmed, and that the apex impulse felt on the left side, occupying 4 intercostal space at 1 centimeter lateral to midclavicular line, which is forceful and ill-sustained.
Will you? I do not accept with forceful, ill-sustained.
Yes.
You have a blood pressure which is normal. You have a normal force volume tension. You have a apex which is shifted to the left, has not gone down. You have no precordial pulsations and no epigastric pulsations, and now you're telling me a forceful and ill-sustained apex. Can you give me a reason why?
Ma'am, due to the severe anemia, there is hyperdynamic.
So then that would have reflected in your volume also, no? You told me that the peripheral pulses are absolutely normal. You told me that the volume was normal and the pulse pressures were normal. So how can you explain an apex only being forceful and hyperdynamic? See, this is what happens in your exam. If you're not correlating all your findings, you cannot explain an isolated finding. So if you wanted to tell me severe anemia causing forceful and ill-sustained apex, that means you're trying to tell the examiner that there is a hyperdynamic circulation in place. In that case, your force and volume should have changed. The volume at least should have changed in your general examination, right? Your pulse volume. So there you should have told the examiner that yes, there is tachycardia and there is volume which is increased. So you are probably looking at a hyperkinetic circulation or hyperdynamic circulation. Have you understood, Bhim Singh?
Yes, ma'am.
Santosh, do you want to add anything? Deepa ma'am? Deepali? Okay. So go ahead. So either this is wrong or the first part is wrong. Okay.
Yes,
Again.
And there is a left parasternal heave was felt. There is a thrill felt in the pulmonary area, and no diastolic shock or no any abnormal palpatory findings were found.
What are the causes of left parasternal heave?
Yes, ma'am.
What are the causes of left parasternal heave?
Maybe, ma'am, due to the right ventricular hypertrophy.
Yes. So if there is a right ventricular hypertrophy, what else will you have? If there is a left parasternal heave, which other pulsations will you expect?
In epigastric pulsation, ma'am.
Yes, very good. So epigastric pulsations you would expect. Is there any other hypertrophy or enlargement which you can get in a left parasternal heave?
Right.
RVH is one, which you told us. Perfect. Second, enlargement.
Left atrial
enlargement. Excellent. So left atrial enlargement. How will you differentiate one from the other? How do you know that this left parasternal is not atrial and it's not it's ventricular and not atrial? Okay, it's very simple. You keep one hand on your parasternal area and you keep the other hand in the apex. If both the pulsations are coming at the same time, you know that the ventricles beat at the same time. So it is obviously a ventricular pulsation. Whatever you are getting is RVH. And if you get one pulsation after the other, so if your hands go alternate, you know that the atrial pulsations happen before or after the ventricular pulsations. So obviously it is atrial in origin. So if pulsations come at the same time with the apex, it is a ventricular pulsation. If it comes after or before, I mean one after the other, it is left atrial enlargement. Okay?
Okay.
Again.
Auscultation. I have auscultated first mitral area, then tricuspid area, followed by pulmonary area and aortic area. However, I got significant finding in the pulmonary area. There is a S1 is normal, while S2 is single and soft with high grade 4 ejection systolic murmur with no variation in intensity of murmur during inspiration and expiration. Tricuspid and aortic area. The S1
is that murmur, one second, Bhim Singh, is that murmur going anywhere else besides that? In the pulmonary area, you said there is an inspiratory and there's a murmur, systolic murmur. Okay.
Yes,
so is this murmur localized in that area or is it going somewhere else?
Ma'am, localizing to the pulmonary area. However,
did you look for any other radiation in that case?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you look for it?
In ma'am axillary area and the
so which murmurs go to the axilla? Will you look for an axillary radiation in this murmur? Do
No,
pulmonary murmurs go to the axilla?
No, ma'am. Pulmonary area.
So which is the area that pulmonary murmurs generally go to?
Mitral area, ma'am.
No.
Area.
It goes to the back. I give you a hint. Supraclavicular and back. So which are the pulmonary murmurs which will go to the back? Which conditions? In fact, any child with these two conditions, a back has always got to be auscultated and it has to be mentioned when pulmonary area has been mentioned here. So pulmonary stenosis murmur, you know that the pulmonary artery originates anteriorly and it goes posteriorly, right? So, and the aorta, arch of aorta from posteriorly comes anteriorly, right? So pulmonary area murmurs will always go to the back, and therefore PS murmurs generally have the ability to go to the back. Okay, which is the other murmur which goes to the back?
Ma'am, in ASD.
No, ASD murmur तो होती ही नहीं ना, murmur ही नहीं होती वहाँ पे. Which is the other murmur which goes to the back?
In aortic regurgitation, ma'am.
Aortic regurgitation, why no? Why should it go to the back? Aorta is coming anteriorly.
Sorry, ma'am. Coarctation of aorta. There is
coarctation of aorta में murmur ही नहीं होती है, वहाँ पे तो femorals पे answer मिलता है.
There is formation of the collateral that gives the
No, that is a very late. You're sort of talking about the collaterals being opening. Yeah, that is true, but it's a late stage. I'm asking you a valvular defect where the murmur goes to the back.
Mitral stenosis.
No. The other bahu of mitral stenosis. Mitral?
Regurgitation.
Regurgitation. So where does a mitral regurgitation murmur go normally? Which two areas a mitral regurgitation murmur?
Axillary area and back.
Correct. Perfect. It goes to the axillary area when which valve is affected?
Mitral valve.
No, there are two valves, right? There is the anterior valve and the posterior valve. Right? So which valve affection causes the murmur to go to the axilla and which valve affection causes the murmur to go to the back? So if the anterior valve is defective, the murmur goes to the back. And if the posterior valve is defective, the murmur goes to the axilla. Okay. See, sometimes they may not ask you anything related to that case. They might just ask you other lesions also. You should be prepared for the answers. Okay. ठीक है, आगे बोलो.
I mean, ma'am, mitral, tricuspid, and aortic area. There is S1 is normal while S2 is soft. And there is ejection systolic murmur is while low intensity as compared to the pulmonary area, which is also not radiating or they're changing during inspiration and expiration.
So you feel this is a radiated murmur or is it an organic murmur?
Ma'am, maybe this
transmitted murmur है कि organic है वो?
Ma'am, same murmur is I think.
Okay. ठीक है.
The respiratory system and other three systems are normal, ma'am. There is no any abnormal finding.
Okay.
Anything specific you would like to see in your core abdominal examination?
Hepatomegaly, ma'am. Tender hepatomegaly, anything.
And is the site of the liver important?
Epigastric site, ma'am, to look pulsation.
Whether liver is right-sided, left-sided, does it make a difference?
Yes, ma'am. In situs invertus.
Heterotaxy syndrome, situs inversus. Okay. Go ahead.
So tell me, Bhim Singh, in situs inversus, which is the problematic situs? A normal one or with dextrocardia? So situs with levocardia is a problem, or situs with extracardia is a problem? And what is the
Situs-
commonest problem?
Situs with levo is problem.
Okay, so what is the problem, commonest problem with situs with levocardia? What do these children present with?
Transposition of greater arteries.
They come with you with complex congenital heart, and they sometimes can come to you with conduction abnormality. So sometimes they present to you with syncope and things like that. Okay. So once they ask you this question, be ready for this question as well. Okay.
Beam Singh, sorry, my connection had got disconnect. I mean, disconnect ho gaya tha. So what is the conclusion after your the auscultation findings?
There is a grade 4 ejection systolic murmur best heard in the pulmonary area, while S1 is normal and soft.
Grade 4 is, Beam Singh, you said grade 4, na?
Ma'am. Grade 4 ejection systolic murmur with the soft S2 and normal S1 is more favoring pulmonary stenosis.
ठीक है. So can you sum up your examination findings quickly in 2 sentences?
The patient having the severe pallor with nail with clubbing. Second thing is cyanosis at the nail fingertips. Third thing is with SpO2 is average SpO2 is at the room here is 74%. Second thing, right ventricular type of apex on the inspection. And on auscultation, there is a ejection systolic murmur. It's best heard with the.
No. Is it a right ventricular type of apex or a left ventricular type of apex?
RV type of apex. Right ventricular type.
There was some confusion going on that there is apex, but what are the characteristics? What type, can you tell me types of apex beat? What are the various types of apex beats?
Say either sir right ventricular or left ventricular type. Normally is a left ventricular type of apex beat, and in the RV type of apex beat is the shifted turn upward, shifted. And
So when you are describing, you can describe it as forceful and sustained, forceful and ill sustained, or tapping. So these are the characteristics of apex beat, na?
Yes, sir.
So usually RV type of apex is what? Forceful and sustained. Is it localized or it is diffused?
Sir, RV type is the diffuse one.
Diffuse हो सकता है क्या Beam Singh उससे? Diffuse कैसे होगा? If your RV is becoming big, the apex, obviously left ventricle moves behind, right? The RV is occupying the place for the left ventricle. So what will happen to the apex? It will come, touch and go. So meaning what?
Tapping type.
No,
yes,
tapping.
but then what will it be?
Okay, see, usually RV apex is a very localized apex. Okay, and left ventricular type of apex is diffuse. So even if you, the area of contact when it is RV apex, it is less. When it is LV apex, area of contact is going to be more. You are going to have epicardial pulsations when it is RV type of apex. LV type of apex, you may not be able to feel them or impulses. Okay? Parasternal heave is going to be seen more in RV type of apex than in LV type of apex. So here, as I told you, when I am asking you to summarize, so basically, child has pallor cyanosis with an apex which is down and out shifted, with an ejection systolic murmur primarily heard in pulmonary area, grade 4/6, with soft S2. Am I right?
Yes.
So what do you feel your child is having after auscultation?
Stenosis is underlying, maybe.
What?
There is pulmonary stenosis.
Don't give an
pulmonary
direct answer. You have to give a complete diagnosis, no, Beam Singh?
Yeah. So,
yes, ma'am.
Like,
so if you go to your last slide, you have given a diagnosis, no?
Yes, ma'am.
So give a complete diagnosis. Don't say pulmonary stenosis. You'll have to say this is a congenital, whether it's acquired congenital. So say all that, no?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. This is a congenital cyanotic heart disease with reduced pulmonary blood flow, most likely phalloid physiology in sinus region with acute viral infection, severe nutritional anemia, and isolated motor delay in severe acute malnourished child with no signs of congestive cardiac failure or infective endocarditis.
Okay. Now, what are the points which are against of physiology in your examination?
Yes, sir. There is no history of cyanotic spell previously. There is a typical history of the cyanotic spell. Is the second thing. No.
Okay. Now, can you tell me what is TOF physiology?
So there is TOF physiology, sir. There is D or LTJ with PS plus VSD or track.
No. That is, you are telling me the lesions which are there in TOF physiology. I am asking you, what is TOF physiology?
The basic pathology of TOF physiology. What is the problem in TOF physiology?
There is a reduced pulmonary blood flow.
Because of?
Because of the pulmonary stenosis.
And?
Okay. And?
So basically,
there is shunting. There is due to the shunting.
So if someone asks you what is TOF physiology, it should come ki there is a VSD so large so as to equalize pressures in both the ventricles with pulmonary stenosis or right ventricular outflow tract obstruction. So any lesion where there is large VSD with right ventricular outflow tract obstruction is going to be labeled as TOF physiology. Now there are various anatomies in TOF physiology. So the lesions are various, but physiology is this. So which are the lesions in TOF physiology? You can have classic tetralogy of Fallot. You can have transposition VSDPS. You can have single ventricle VSDPS. You can have DILV VSDPS. So there can be n number of anatomies with the same type of physiologies. So after your examination, you have come to a conclusion that your child has a cyanotic heart disease. It is congenital heart problem, and there is TOF physiology. Along with along with that, there are other nutritional issues also. So there is anemia also. Okay. So in TOF physiology, what lesion do you feel your?
Most likely, sir, tetralogy of Fallot.
So what the reason this child is not presented till 22? When does the classical TOF present?
I mean, it is present below the 1 year of age. Then maybe
why doesn't TOF present at birth? Because there is an RVOT since birth, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. At birth, there is no any there is large non-restricted VSD was there. There is no any obstruction to the flow. That's why that's why there is no presentation of the TOF at the birth.
See, TOF physiology is a spectrum of hemodynamic disturbance. It can be mild to severe, right from pulmonary atresia to a VSD with late developing mild PS. So age is not a matter which cannot exclude TOF physiology. It can happen at any time of age. Even adults can be detected to have mild TOF, that is mostly called as pink fellows or VSD with PS.
Bhimsen, what is that one test which is used to differentiate between cyanosis of cardiac and pulmonary origin? We had a lot of discussion on that cyanosis part, which we were not convinced. And about central cyanosis, Sampada madam was also not very sure. So which is one test which you could have done?
Hyperoxia test, ma'am.
Yes. Have you done that?
No.
Can you just tell us a bit about hyperoxia test?
Ma'am, the hyperoxia test is done to rule out the cause of the cyanosis, is the respiratory or the cardiovascular. It is done by giving the 100% oxygen for about 10 minutes and then check the PO2. If the PO2 is increasing baseline above the 150 or 100 or 150, that means it's suggestive of the respiratory pathology, not the cardio.
Yes. So it was necessary that you would have done this test. At least that could have added more to your, the contradiction which was there. Okay, good.
The investigation was done. Is a CBC hemogram was done with peripheral blood smear. HB was 6 gram per deciliter. TLC 21,000 cells per cubic mm with lymphocytic predominance 72%, hematocrit was 24%, platelet was adequate. Peripheral blood smell shows microcytic hypochromic with RBC indices was reduced with increased RDW, red cell distribution. Say chest was done, which suggestive of the cardiomegaly. CT ratio was 0.7 with cardiac apex is rounded and upward.
Beam Singh?
Yes, sir.
You said that patient was not in failure. So did you expect tetralogy of Fallot to be in failure?
So normally tetralogy of Fallot is not went into failure, but some condition like severe anemia, infective endocarditis, then severe systemic hypertension may goes into failure.
Okay.
So good. You are a patient.
Beam Singh, can you go to the X-ray, please? Yes. What is that line below the right atrial? Can you tell us where is the right atrial enlargement? Yes.
There is a right atrial enlargement also.
Can you show us where is the atrium?
This is ma'am.
Is that the atrium? Is that the atrium? That's the auricle. Where is the atrium, right atrium?
This is ma'am.
Which is the border of the right atrium? Let me be very clear. Show me the part which is representative of the right atrium.
What is the right cardiac border made up of? Top to bottom.
From the right atrium, right ventricle.
Right ventricle?
No.
Which is the most anterior chamber of the heart?
Right ventricle, ma'am.
So what is the line below the right atrium, the so-called right atrium? Can you see there's a line in the cardiophrenic angle, right side? Can you see that there's a straight line there, down there?
Yes.
What is that line? And when you get that line positive or a very, very prominent line, that can tell us something very, very crucial.
Lung collapse may be underlying.
No, it is not lung collapse. Is there a shift of the trachea?
No, ma'am.
So how can you think of, and is there, one second. Are there any other signs of collapse over there?
No.
So tell us, what is that line? What is Kimitas sign? How can you pick up partial anomalous PAPVC on X-ray? I've given you a hint. So what do you think? I'm talking about these things. So what is there? What is the venous connection from the abdomen?
What structure is there that is coming into the RA? What is draining into the RA?
Inferior vena cava.
So is that the inferior vena cava? Possible?
Yes.
So when do you have an enlarged inferior vena cava there? Since you told us that there is no hepatomegaly, right?
Yes, ma'am.
There was no business for that inferior vena cava to become so big. So in which conditions will you get such a big inferior vena cava?
Budd-Chiari syndrome.
Budd-Chiari, but the liver should have been big, no? Congestive hepatomegaly, painful tender liver. What can get flow into the inferior vena cava? Let's put it very simple.
Right atrium.
Okay. So push back. That's what you meant, right? But more something else, a little rarer condition.
Where else can it come from? The blood. It should not normally come there, but it is coming in this situation.
Anomalous connection.
Yeah, somebody's given you the answer already. Halfway. Ma'am has already given you a prompt. She's prompted you.
Total anomalous pulmonary venous connection.
Total का थोड़ा क्या होता है?
Partial.
Yeah, PAPVC. So what is PAPVC?
There is a drainage of the one lobe or two lobes pulmonary veins into the right side, right atrium.
Okay, so generally two or more veins can come into the Yeah, branches come into the inferior vena cava. Okay. So sometimes getting these X-rays on table vivas or in your OSCE, they might ask you these questions, especially for DNB, MD. They keep your spots, right? So you should be
Turkish
knowing
sword म्हणतो. It is called as Turkish sword sign. The other
Turkish
word for
sword,
scimitar.
Turkish sword sign. Yeah, scimitar sign or Turkish sword sign. Okay. Chalo, आगे. So why do you think there is cardiomegaly here? Normally you have a microcardia, right? In TOF patients,
Yes,
the heart
yes, ma'am.
size is generally normal or a little less than normal. Why do you think there is cardiomegaly here?
Ma'am, the apex of these upturn, outward and upturn.
The reason for
The
cardiomegaly.
What is the reason for cardiomegaly? The reason I asked you why did you suspect CCF? Same reason the cardiomegaly is there, na?
There, ma'am, sir, severe pulmonary stenosis was there.
तो pulmonary stenosis से RVH होता है तो कैसा होता है RVH? Is the blood going to go into the RVH or it's going to be shunted through that VSD?
Yes, ma'am, they shunted.
So then will you get such a big right ventricle?
No, ma'am.
What does cardiomegaly indicate? Which type of lesion you are suspecting when there is cardiomegaly?
Volume overload, ma'am.
So what causes volume overload in a patient of TOF? That will cause cardiomegaly, no? So what is
your
causing
patient has
volume
something,
overload in
no?
this patient?
Your patient has that severe something.
Severe something.
anemia. Bhim Singh, तो थकला है सर आता.
Ma'am, there are 4-5 तोफा त्याच्या अंगावर आपण टाकून दिलेले आहेत.
No. We just mentioned severe anemia to you when you asked him, na, Santosh, few questions back. So I think he's just tired now.
Yeah. What about the pulmonary vasculature over here?
Yes, ma'am.
What about the pulmonary vasculature? Can you comment on it?
Ma'am, there is in tetralogy of Fallot, there should be the oligomy, but here there is little bit increased pulmonary blood.
Little bit?
There is plethora type of the increased bronchoscopy.
Which part of the lung is more vascular than the other part? Bhim Singh, can you see this lung?
Yes, ma'am.
It's the upper, middle, and the lower lobes. Which part is more vascular, looking whiter than the other part? Which one?
Left side, ma'am. Left side.
Both the sides, for that matter. Do you see that the vascularity in both the upper lobes is more?
Yes, ma'am.
In which conditions will you get it normally on X-rays?
Transposition of greater arteries or TAPVC, like.
Which conditions there is a skewed ratio? In which acquired heart disease will you get this skewed ratio? And therefore you're protected naturally from tuberculosis. Which acquired heart disease? What happens in mitral stenosis, Bhim Singh?
There is increase, ma'am.
Yes.
What is mustache up, mustache down side?
Yeah. So are there any curly ABC lines over here?
Sampada, if you can allude all the students. We are just
Yes,
reaching the end of the session.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Fine,
So, if you can please give the answers. So
yeah. Usually the upper lobes are better vascularized in conditions where there's a gross pulmonary edema, and especially in mitral stenosis, you do get it. And in TAPVCs, you get an upper lobe which is more vascular than the lower lobe. And the Kerley ABC lines is beyond the 2/3. If you divide the lung fields into 1/3, 2/3, and the rest beyond the 2/3, if you get vascularity towards the end till the ribcage, you have the Kerley B, the A, and the C lines. So this tells us about gross pulmonary edema. Especially for students, always remember that when you have suspecting cardiomegaly in any patient, always put an NGT and you put in an NGT and you send the child for an X-ray so that the NGT will curve to one side and you will be able to demonstrate left atrial enlargement. So these are the telltale signs which you have to pick up on X-rays when you're looking at X-rays for congenital heart diseases. Okay. Yeah. So go ahead, Bhimsing.
When in ECG, the rate was 150 per minute in the sinus rhythm with tall P wave. With right axis deviation and right ventricular hypertrophy. That is, in lead V1 and V2, there is predominance of the R wave was there, and lead 5 and V5 and V6, there is predominant in the S wave. It is more to the right ventricular hypertrophy.
In which other condition will you get a very tall R in V1 besides this? In which condition do you really look at the R waves, tall R waves in V1? In which congenital acyanotic heart disease?
Ma'am, in ASD.
Very good. So in ASD, you're going to look at an tall R in V1, and in any congenital cyanotic heart disease where you will get a tall R wave in V1? With an RSR dash pattern is a PAPVC. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay. I'll give it.
DECO finding was, ma'am, there is a double outlet right ventricle with demalposed great arteries. There is a tricuspid atresia with severe infundibular plus valvular pulmonary stenosis with large ventricular septal defect mounting to the single ventricle with atrial septal defect and right ventricular dilatation with right atrial enlargement.
Okay. So how will you manage this child?
The basic first is the if the patient came with TED spell or present, they take the TED spell by giving the oxygenation, by calming the child. And second thing, to start with IV fluids. Then third thing is the if sedate the child if he is irritable or crying excessive cry. Then we can give, if it's not still in improving stage, we can start the propranolol. And third thing is then after treating the cyanotic spell, we can first we have to treat the nutrition, like and give the iron therapy to the patient. And nutrition is subsequently correct. Nutrition is also should be started. And the third thing is the to prevent the subsequent event of the TED spell, or that should be counseled to the parents and give the propranolol to the patient to prevent subsequent event. This is the palliative treatment. Definitive further treatment is a surgical procedure.
Bhimsing, did you mention soda bicarb?
Yes,
Roll up soda bicarb?
Yes, ma'am. Underlying for the correction of the acidosis, we have to give the soda bicarb along with IV fluids.
Okay.
भीमसिंग हॅलो.
येस येस सर.
तो पिक्चर दाखवलं का मी काढलं होतं ते?
नाही सर, तो काढला मी.
नाही, basically see what I want to tell all the panelists or experts is it was not a straightforward case of tricuspid atresia or even tetralogy of Fallot. So this patient had I mean there is DSDD, situs solitus, D-looped ventricle, D-malposed great arteries. Both the great arteries are coming from right ventricle. There is tricuspid atresia. So if we trace the flow of the blood, so blood coming from SVC to IVC is coming to right atrium, across the ASD into left atrium, then going to left ventricle, there is a huge VSD. Through the VSD, blood is going to the right ventricle, and that is the reason right ventricle is not hypoplastic in spite of tricuspid atresia. And then it's a obligatory left to right shunt because it is DORV, and both the great vessels are coming from right ventricle. So there is tricuspid atresia, but ECG is mostly like tetralogy of Fallot because there is no hypoplasia of the RV. So it's not a very straightforward case actually, as far as I mean, explanation of clinical auscultatory findings is concerned also is not easy.
So in the exam, however, we are not looking at a final diagnosis. So if you tell us your thought process and a provisional diagnosis and a group of disease where you can put it to, I think that is enough.
Yeah, that is what I mean.
What are the atypical findings here suggestive of something beyond TOF?
Typical findings, there is a tall P wave was there in ECG.
Starting from history, clinical examination, and you investigate.
On clinical history, sir, there is no typical history of the TET spell or cyanotic spell was there. Third thing, second, in on examination, there is in examination there was in favor of the cyanotic heart disease. There is clubbing was there, cyanotic cyanosis on the nail bed on the fingertips was also present, and the saturation. Saturation was
Pramod, can I request you only to tell us what were your observations? Because I think Bhimsing is really tired. Hi, Pramod.
No,
ma'am, I will just
Santosh can go
I'll
ahead.
just summarize, ma'am, for undergraduate students.
Yes, please.
Yeah, because see, I mean, what is the take-home message from today's discussion? So there are 2 to 3 things, as Kulkarni sir has rightly said. Your chief complaints are very important. Your negative history depends upon your chief complaints. Your analysis of disease process and localization of the system should start immediately after the chief complaints are over. Once you have localized the disease process to cardiovascular system, you have to try to put that case into these 5 baskets of whether it's a volume overload lesion, TOF physiology, whether it's a mixing parallel circulation, fixed output state, or primary myocardial dysfunction. These 5 baskets can go up and down as your history and examination progresses, but try to keep this rigid framework so that it is easy for you to convey to the examiner that you have made an effort to read the topic. If you use typical sentences, particular words, which I think you should learn by heart while you are presenting the cases, so then it becomes very easy for the examiner to understand. When you use a word of volume overload, he knows you have made an effort to learn cardiovascular system. You have to make it a point that the jigsaw puzzle should fit properly by the end of your auscultation. So as far as possible, there should not be any findings which don't match your history or your clinical examination. They should not be paradoxical. If at all they are paradoxical the way they were in this case, you should be prepared for justification. And lastly, as Rajesh sir again told, we don't expect you to give an anatomical diagnosis. Had Bhimsing told initially here that my patient has DORV tricuspid atresia, I would have tended to not give him a bonus point or fail him, in fact, because we don't expect you to go to that conclusion. Even I can't do that diagnosis on clinical examination. It's an anatomical diagnosis, it's an echo diagnosis. Your job is only to come to a clinical construct. So clinical construct can be TOF physiology, volume overload, VSD left to right shunt, those sort of things. So that is what it should be.
Well done, Bhimsing. Well presented.
Good.
Yes.
Good presentation, Bhimsing.
Good presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Only thing is, those typical questions, just be prepared for them, write them down, because they will start the Viva with those questions. Okay.
Can I suggest one thing?
Yes, ma'am.
2 or 3 or 4 students. The firing doesn't go to only one student. So
We should have a panel of presenters.
There are more one who is answering, so that becomes very much this for this.
And the only clinical thing which hit me in this case, the left ventricular heave is not in TOF, classic TOF. Classic TOF doesn't come with dilatation. And left ventricular, left parasternal heave is suggestive of right ventricular diastolic overload, which was not expected in case of TOF. In TOF, the chest is silent. Here it was not silent. There was left parasternal heave suggestive of volume overload of right ventricle, which is very atypical of classic TOF.
Sir, I think that left parasternal heave was not the right ventricle, it was a left atrium which was becoming big. And that is exactly seen on the X-ray also, correlating with the X-ray.
Yes.
That's why I said you put in an NGT to demonstrate that that left atrium is very, very big. Because if you don't put an NGT on it while taking an X-ray, you will never come to know whether there's a left atrium which is big or no. A curved left atrium can give you the answer. And the moment you have a left atrium, you know it's not TOF physiology, definitely.
I think we can go on and on in this complex case. I think Bhim Singh has made a very brave effort, and I would request Dr. Sanjay Nathul to conclude.
Yeah, thank you, Bhim Singh, for presenting a little unusual case. And I would like to thank our faculty, Dr. Deepa Petke Madam, Dr. Deepali Ambike Ma'am, Sampada, Dr. Sampada, and Dr. Santosh for their inputs at different stages, as well as Dr. Rajesh, Pramod Sukade sir, and both you, Madam, for helping out with this case. And we'll keep on continuing this series of case presentations under the guidance of Othiu Madam, and we'll take Dr. Deepa Ma'am's suggestion as well, that we can have more students to answer the questions rather than a single person facing all the fire. So definitely we'll look into that and see if we can arrange it that way next time around. So thank you all the faculty, and thank you.
Next case will be by
Thank you.
DMA.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Case after 15 days will be by Dinanath. Sorry, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Deepa, ma'am.
Thank you, Deepa,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
कसं काढायचंय स्टॉप शेअर मी माझं स्टार्ट व्हिडिओ बंद केलाय ना लिव्ह मीटिंग हे काय